All right, now it's time for what you've been waiting for. A phone that is very attractive. Here is the Galaxy A55. This is the first Samsung phone with 12 gigabytes of RAM. It has a different and better design. It also has a bigger screen and a new chip that can easily make users want to change their phone this year. Hello, I'm Arshia, and welcome to the review video of the Galaxy A55. When you first see the Galaxy A55, you might think, oh, it's the same design again and Samsung just copied it. For example, when you look at the cameras, they look the same as before with the same arrangement. But if you look closer, you'll see that the A55 has some small but interesting changes. These changes might be a good thing for some people, but for others, they might feel disappointed. Now think about which group you belong to. First, let's look at the familiar part, the cameras. The camera's setup and arrangement haven't changed from last year. It seems like the same sensors from the A54 are used in the A55. Let me explain. There is a main 50-megapixel camera with optical image stabilization that can record 4K video at 30 frames per second. Then, there's a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera and a 5-megapixel macro camera. If you don't care much about taking close-up photos, the macro camera might not be important for you. Finally, we have the selfie camera, which is 32 megapixels. You can take selfies with it and also record 4K videos at 30 frames per second. Guys, the A55's camera is good for casual photography. This means if the lighting is decent and you want to take pictures of different things or scenes indoors, it will give you pretty good results. But depending on what you're photographing, the results can be different. For example, natural colors, especially green trees or spring flowers, can look very bright and saturated. However, other objects might look closer to their natural color and not as saturated. HDR doesn't work well in very bright light, and some parts of the picture can get too bright. The balance between the light and dark areas isn't good, and some bright areas can look too white. The lack of detail in textures is a main problem with the camera, especially since there are better cameras in this price range. However, if you don't zoom in too much and don't need to fix the light, this issue might not be noticeable. For night photos, you can use night mode on both the main and ultra-wide cameras. For taking photos with nice colors, it's better to use the main camera, especially indoors or outside. The main camera gives better results than the ultra-wide camera. It handles lighting and background light better in dark areas. For selfies, whether you're inside or outside, the A55's selfie camera works well and can give you high-quality, memorable selfies. As I said, the camera is good for most users and meets their needs, but we expected that Samsung, with one of its best-selling phones, would pay more attention to the camera. If you adjust things a bit, you might get better results from the A55's camera, but it might still be a bit disappointing. Now that we've covered the camera, let's talk about the design changes I mentioned at the start of the video. First of all, look at this beautiful color. It's so nice and pleasing. All four colors of this phone are just as beautiful and appealing, and I think they can attract almost any taste. This year, Samsung's phone colors are very vibrant. If you don't like bright colors, there's also a sleek black color available. For those who like black, this model has a very stylish black option. The white model we have here doesn't show fingerprints or dirt. There are also two other bright colors, lemon yellow and lavender, which are also very nice, but the black color might show more fingerprints and smudges. If you use a case, this problem will be solved, so you don't need to worry about it. The beautiful colors come with a design upgrade. The phone now has a metal frame and a new design language called KI Island, which we also see in the A25 and A35 this year. This new design makes the phone look quite different from last year's models. The main difference between the A55 and the A25 and A35 is that the A55 has a metal frame, while the other two models have plastic frames. The KI Island design is quite interesting. The frame of the phone is flat, but the part where the physical buttons are is raised and curved, almost like a separate island for the volume and power buttons. In the A55, because of the metal frame, the The flat parts of the frame are polished or brushed, while the island area is smooth and matte. This metal frame gives the phone a premium feel, making it feel solid and high quality in your hand. But to me, having a smooth part and a polished part on the phone looks a bit mismatched. It feels like the design is not very cohesive. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this design. Do you think a bigger metal frame makes a difference? Also, reaching the edges of the screen is harder now, and you need to move the phone around in your hand more. It's not as easy to hold as before. Even though the build quality is excellent with its metal frame and glass body, it doesn't feel as good in your hand and is quite bulky. Regarding the screen, although it's bigger and covers about 86% of the front of the device, there haven't been any other significant technical changes. Additionally, unfortunately, the bezels still stand out a lot. The phone has a resolution of 1080 by 2340 pixels with a 20:9 aspect ratio. Although the number of pixels is the same, they are spread out over a larger screen, so the pixel density is slightly lower. However, it's not noticeable to the eye. The screen uses an AMOLED panel with a 120 Hz refresh rate and supports HDR10+. Samsung claims the brightness can reach up to 1000 nits. In brightness tests by Zoomit, when you use the auto brightness setting and take the phone out into strong sunlight, the brightness can reach around 1500 nits. This means there are no issues seeing the screen in bright light. On the other hand, when watching HDR videos on YouTube or in the gallery, the brightness can go up to 2000 nits, which is an excellent number. The A55 screen is very bright and has good colors. However, we expected Samsung to move away from the 8-bit panel in this price range. For example, the Poco X6 Pro, a competitor, uses a 12-bit panel which can display more vibrant and appealing colors. Samsung has upgraded the screen protection this year. The A55 now features Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, which is stronger than the Gorilla Glass 5 on the A54. The phone still has an IP67 rating, which helps protect it from water and dust damage. The A55 should really shine in terms of user experience. You can play games without worrying too much. For heavier games like Shadowgun Legends or Genshin Impact, you can use normal graphics settings to avoid strange frame drops. One of the advantages of Samsung's approach is that the A55 is both powerful and optimized. Even though it has the same 5,500 mAh battery as before, it's likely that the phone's efficiency improvements help maintain good performance and battery life. For battery life, the A55 relies on efficient processing. Fortunately, this approach has been successful. In Zoomit's video playback test, the Galaxy A55 lasted around 30 hours, which is impressive. For daily use, it can last nearly 14 hours on a single charge. As Samsung mentions in its specifications, the phone can generally last about 2 full working days without needing a recharge, depending on how you use it. Samsung adding 12 gigabytes of RAM to a mid-range phone for the first time is a big plus for the A55. This is especially useful for users who keep many apps open in the background, as it helps prevent lag and slowdowns. If you're considering upgrading from a phone that's 3 to 4 years old and have a budget of around $300, the A55 is one of the best options you can choose. If you have an iPhone 5 or 4 and the look or hardware of the phone isn't very important to you, and you mostly use your phone for everyday tasks, it might make sense to keep using your iPhone 5 or 4. But if you want a new phone, the Poco X3 Pro is a very strong and good choice. We have already reviewed this phone on Zoomit, and I will add the review link below. The price of this phone is around $400. To better understand the pros and cons of these two phones, and to know which one is better in different areas, we will soon make another video. So make sure to watch our next video. It's great that you stayed with me until the end of this video. I'm putting this Poco X3 Pro here. It's a good phone and will just stay here without bothering anyone. Take care of yourselves, and don't forget to write your comments. It's very important.